My wife left me for weeks and admitted to cheating on me for 4 years because she was bored and now wants me back. Pretty lost with my current situation, looking for any sort of insight. Wife 39F and I 40M have been married for 17 years as mentioned. We have 3 daughters 15, 13, 11. We're high school sweethearts, been together for about 23 years now. I know almost nothing, but here's the only information I have. Wife comes home 3 days ago from work, had to work on the 4th, frantic, emotional, hastily packed an overnight bag and left. Only know this because our oldest daughter was home at the time and watched her, tried talking to her but she was just crying, distraught, and didn't speak. Said she was almost in a panic. She's not responding to any of our texts/calls. Contacted her parents right away and they eventually responded saying that my wife is safe with them, and to please be patient and understanding. That's it. I tried contacting her sister, her brother, and one of her close work friends. Her brother said he knew nothing and her work friend said she was at work in the morning then gone by lunch, 3 days ago, that's all she knew. That's it. 3 days now, no contact from my wife, not even with the kids, nothing. No one is telling us anything, and here I am with my 3 girls trying to manage without her. Kids keep asking me what's going on, asking what happened with mom, and all I can say is that she's a grandma and grandpa's. And we're supposed to be patient and understanding. I have an overwhelming urge to just pack up the kids quick and drive over there without warning. It's only 3 hours away and sitting here in limbo is awful. The kids think we had a huge fight and are divorcing, but that's farthest from the truth. We never fight, the kids know this. I don't know what's going on, but can someone provide some clarity from a logical perspective? As my current emotional state has me thinking in circles while I try to manage everything without her. If someone passed away, wouldn't your spouse/family be the first person you'd tell? Maybe some past trauma was brought to life? But again, if it were me, my wife would be the first person I'd come to for support. We know nothing. Nothing makes sense, I don't know what to do. And I just sit here in limbo with the girls, we all know nothing, and no one is telling us anything. And it has me worried, scared, angry, etc. Just about any emotion one can feel in this situation. Can anyone come up with something reasonable? Why would you ghost your family like this? Update 1, I'm not very familiar with Reddit yet, apologies. Not much to post, I don't know how to link my last post. Just not 100% sure how to do that. It was a long night last night, I didn't sleep. And forgive me for the short update, don't anticipate spending much time on the computer today, but I did read every post yesterday and into the night and will eventually read responses today. I'll just say what I know and leave it at that. My father-in-law didn't call me last night, so I did eventually end up contacting the police and they did a wellness check as many of you suggested. This caused a storm of issues that I won't get into, but my wife has been having an affair. For at least 2 years now, likely longer. Everyone was correct. The other man apparently had a heart attack on Tuesday and eventually passed away that night. For certain my mother-in-law and it sounds like probably my sister-in-law have known about it and have been covering for her. Still no contact from my wife, not to me or the girls. Trying to keep this from them for now, honestly no idea what to do from here. That's all I know, and that's enough to just about be the end of me. Thank you for all of the help/advice. Not sure how to move on from this news, but that's it. If you pray, please pray for me and us. Update 2, I've been recommended this sub by a few others, just joined and have been reading through many posts when I have time. Mostly at night when the chaos of the day ends, and then of course the brain takes over and I go through these fits of depression, then I get hit with raging anger, then both at the same time. Sleeping is nearly impossible, then I wander through the day like a zombie. I'm trying to learn all of the acronyms, I guess D-Day for me was Friday. Wife was having what I initially thought was a 2-year affair, but now it seems very likely it was longer and the man she cheated with AP was someone she's known for a while. He tragically passed away of a heart attack which triggered the revelation. I'm still digging for information with the help of my oldest daughter, lots of things I'm not ready to post about. Really had no plans of continuing to make posts about my situation, but so many people have offered so much help/advice it's almost become therapeutic. It hurts to know so many other people have/are suffering through this kind of pain. For that I'm so sorry. I met with 2 different lawyers both yesterday and today to discuss options, contacted several places regarding therapy too, but there are very long waits where I live. Trying to adhere to many suggestions others have made, avoid alcohol, but I don't drink and never have, self-care, workout, etc. I'd consider myself in very good shape for someone my age, but hard to find the energy to work out right now. I know many of you will ask me for details, the who's, what's, when's, why's, and such, but please understand that I'm just not ready to get into all of that yet. Every day seems like a new bomb has exploded, and I'm just looking for advice on one thing so I can maybe start sleeping a little. My wife was everything to me, my best friend since high school, the mother of my 3 beautiful daughters. I mean, we have inside jokes and secret handshakes, it's all gone. Everything, it's just all gone. I think about all of our years together, every milestone, every laugh, and now I just get so very depressed. It's crippling. It's as though it all meant nothing to her and now my future will be without her. And then of course the how could yous creep in, and I get overcome with this unquenchable raging anger. I scream into my pillow and punch the mattress until my arms cramp. It's a horrible cycle. I only sleep out of pure exhaustion, then I'll wake up suddenly and the mind games begin anew. Any energy I do have I dedicate to my girls, who've been trying to take care of me like they're the parents. It's not fair to them. How did you all sleep after you found out about the affair? How did you manage the silence and the emptiness at night with only your thoughts? I've decided that outside of my daughters, sleep needs to be my #1 priority in all of this, but I just can't, so hoping you can help. Thank you all. Update 3, apologies for still being relatively new to Reddit, not sure how much of my situation I'm supposed to repeat or reiterate. But it's been just over a week since my D-Day, and since that day I've learned my wife's affair was well over 4 years. Still no exact timeline. Very likely it started emotional and then turned physical. I'm curious how the pandemic and lockdowns played into this too, questions I may or may not get the answers to. Anyway, yesterday my in-laws made an impromptu visit to see their grandkids. WW has been crashing at their house since this nightmare began. Which is complete and total crap of course, as they spent all of 15 minutes greeting the girls, wife and I have 3 daughters, before asking to speak with me in private. It was a long conversation as you might expect, one which I don't want to dialogue in its entirety on this post. But long story short, my wife wants to come home but she fears the backlash of her actions and is afraid to face what she's done. Her parents also dug very hard trying to determine whether or not I planned on divorcing. And spent considerable time trying to sway me toward forgiving my wife and trying to rebuild the marriage. It was clear they were very ashamed and embarrassed, but also clear they wanted my wife out of their house. It was a very civil and respectful exchange. I admit I lied, and told them I wasn't sure what my future plans were, as I fully plan on divorcing. But I feel if I reveal this, I'll never get the truth from my wife. And I may never get it, but I want her to sit in front of me and explain it all if possible. Over 17 years of marriage and being together since high school, 3 kids, countless memories and all that we've shared. I want her to look me in the eyes and tell me everything. I also want my kids to know that I gave her a chance to explain herself, that I gave her the opportunity to apologize and handle things together as mature adults. I keep trying to choose the path that will set the best example for my kids. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Legally I cannot keep my wife out of our home, lawyer made that very clear. So if my wife is going to come home, I can't stop her. Though I absolutely do not want this right now. My girls and I have actually started to settle into a nice routine, so I made a demand that I felt would be unachievable for a while. I said my wife could come home when she sat down with me in person, looked me in the eyes, and revealed everything about her affair start to finish, answering all of my questions without hesitation or further deceit, and then sat down with the girls and apologized in person and answered their questions too. Figured since they already know it's only fair. Again, she can legally come home whenever she wants and doesn't have to adhere to any demands, but if she's afraid to face us, maybe I could use that to our advantage? Is that wrong? I'm not trying to be devious or deceptive here. Just really don't want to start cohabitating yet if I can delay it. There is a mandatory 90-day waiting period in our state before divorce can happen anyway. Her coming home is inevitable, we'll both have to go back to work eventually and life will go on regardless of this mess. I just like to prolong it so I can plan and get into a better state of mental/emotional health. My wife has been texting the girls, and she claims that she doesn't want a divorce and keeps apologizing to them repeatedly. They've shown me the texts, asks about me daily, and the reality of what she's done to all of us is hitting her hard, especially in the last couple of days. How do I manage this? Was my demand foolish? It sounds like my wife is going to be coming home sooner than later anyway. I feel confident in my path forward right now. I'm not rattled by this as I knew it would happen eventually. I just want to make the best decision for my daughters and then myself as we move forward. Thank you to each and everyone that's been offering encouragement, advice, and support. Update 4, this will be rather anticlimactic but apologies for the length, I just need to get this out. Terrible weekend. But my wife came home yesterday. A decent amount of build up to it as this week went on. Any prior time she'd first enter the doorway I'd give her a hug and kiss, but this time there was just this horribly uncomfortable awkwardness between us. She actually came to me and tried to give me a hug before saying anything, but I turned away. Unreal, just as if nothing had happened. After she settled, I naturally asked her to tell me everything, and she again reiterated that she's not ready. We had spoken on the phone earlier in the week, same result. I insisted that the only condition of her moving back home was that she loved the family enough to explain why she's been absent for going on 3 weeks, but she just repeated that she just wasn't ready for that. It took a lot to not scream at her, but I took a couple of deep breaths and tried to compose myself. I failed, and after the first of many very long pauses, I just blurted out that she'd been having an affair for over 4 years with this coworker of hers, planned on leaving me for this other man, ghosted her whole family and now walks through the door without fulfilling the one single condition that I had asked for. And that I wanted a divorce. I guess this is when things got weird? Her body language and facial expression made it obvious she had no idea how much I knew about her affair. She glanced at me wide-eyed, then just stood there in the kitchen staring at the floor, said nothing, just stoic. I was expecting anything/everything but this. Maybe an emotional tirade, maybe a teary-eyed confession, maybe she'd start screaming at me, yelling, blaming the affair on me, maybe a serious toned "okay, let's sit down and talk this out," but not this reaction. We honestly must have stood in the kitchen for 5 minutes in absolute silence. It was just the strangest moment I've ever experienced. She clearly didn't know what to say, and neither did I. I had read all of your comments/advice on my situation. I even took notes. I sat in front of a mirror and had prepared myself for all possible scenarios that this confrontation might present. Except this one. So I eventually decided right then and there to map out everything I knew about her affair. Maybe dumb of me. Proceeded to tell her everything that I knew, admittedly adding in my own assumptions about several things: how she met AP, her sister's involvement, what went on during COVID, etc. She just stared at the floor the entire time. I got angrier as I went along because she said/did nothing, but I did everything I could not to raise my voice or get obscene. I finally composed myself, then there was another lengthy awkward silence. Then anger switched to sadness at the realization of everything. I then softly asked her what I did to push her away. Did she ever love me? And was he, AP, worth it? She said nothing, didn't budge, didn't move. Just nothing from her at all. No tears, no apology, no yelling, no explanation, just stood there with her head down. Nothing. This hurt maybe worse than D-Day did. I stood there staring at her, not sure I would have moved, but then things got worse. Of course our girls were eavesdropping on the entire encounter. I'm just so incredibly stupid. I've been dedicating so much energy into putting them first and their needs over the past couple of weeks, but I got emotional and didn't give a single thought to their whereabouts once I confronted my wife. So our oldest daughter stormed downstairs and lashed out, a lot of pent-up anger on her part. My wife quickly just ran upstairs and locked the bedroom door. That's where we're at now. I heard my wife crying most of the night last night until I fell asleep. Only our youngest has tried talking to her, the rest of us have avoided her. If I can get the courage up, I'm going to suggest she stay with her sister until we're able to finalize the divorce, but this is still her home too. It's just going to be miserable if we all have to cohabitate with her. I was wrong about my wife and all of you were correct. I was wrong about all of our years together, wrong about all of the memories, the life-changing moments. I was convinced she'd drop to her knees and beg forgiveness. I was so convinced that she would repent of everything from the last 4 years and unload the truth to absolve her guilt. This woman literally drove back to a farmer's market once when she realized she'd been given $10 too much in change, but we're not worth it to her. I'm not worth it to her, maybe I never was. Now what? Today was so uncomfortable at home. The girls and I tried to carry on as we had for the past 2 weeks, but obviously that's not possible. I just want to fast forward past all this, past the divorce, past the awkward conversations, past the inevitable arguments/fights, past the drama. To those that have had to cohabitate with their WS, how did you manage that? Especially with kids? I know this is just the beginning. I keep reading all of the posts that promise it gets better, but I'm so far away from that. There's not a single moment when I don't want to scream/sob right now. Trying very hard to maintain a stable mind for the girls, of course, but don't know if I can keep it up for 3 months. School will start well before all of this is over too. I guess this is my life now. Thank you all for taking such a vested interest in me. I don't know if the worst is ahead or behind us, but appreciate any/all you can offer to get me through the next phase. Upfate 5. I'm in a bad way, and have been in a bad way since my WW came home since I learned of her affair. I've been trying to fake it as best as possible for my daughters. I try to say the right things, think the right things, but tonight I have to admit the truth. As many of you post daily, it comes in waves, but I was hit with a big one tonight and lost my composure a bit. Divorce is filed, but my WW still has yet to hire a lawyer, and again I'm trying to be as patient and delicate in this regard as possible, as I'm starting to see hope for an uncontested divorce that we mainly handle mostly ourselves, but after tonight I don't know. We've been cohabitating during the week, and WW goes to her sister's Friday nights and returns home Sunday nights as she works very close to our family home, but her sister is an hour away if there's no traffic. For the past couple of weeks it's been this routine of mostly avoidance, as myself and the girls are trying to carry on normally while WW kinda just stays to herself, though there are casual interactions every evening, except that my oldest daughter and my WW aren't speaking after a couple of bad blow-ups. It's for the best right now. Lately I've been heeding much of all of your advice along with things I've read. I work very hard on my self-discipline around my wife, and though it takes all my strength and willpower, I've been short and indifferent toward her when we briefly talk, though always polite and respectful. Until tonight. Last couple of Fridays she's come home from work, gotten a few things together and taken off for her sister's for the weekend before I'm even home from work. But not tonight. She was waiting in the kitchen for me when I got home tonight. I tried to just walk past, but she lightly grabbed me by the hand and asked me if this is how I was going to treat her just because she's not ready to talk to me about her affair, which by the way, is the very first time she's so much as mentioned a single word about her cheating since this all blew up almost a month ago. I promise you I tried to just bite my tongue and walk away, But our daughters weren't home at the time and rage built up in me, and then I unloaded my every vice, every pain, every hurt, ache, rage, misery. I unloaded everything on her. I can't even tell you how long I went on, lost all concept of time. I did raise my voice at times, got a little animated and loud. I just broke down and told her how broken I am and the agony that I'm in every day. Everything I've been holding back, everything that's been tormenting me. I mean, I could make this post 4,000 words long if I tried to recount everything I said. Once I started, I wasn't going to stop. Of course I cried, got emotional again. I was so frickin' angry at myself afterward. I'd been doing so well. Damn IT. She got to me, I let her get to me. I knew it would happen, I knew it. Disgusting, it's been building for a while and there's only so much I can vent into the weight room. Well, also for the first time, WW actually broke down and got emotional. Surprisingly started sobbing uncontrollably. Regrettably, this made me happy to see her hurting in the same way that I was. I wish that I didn't care, but there was some satisfaction in seeing her break down finally. Like there is actually someone in there with an ounce of compassion. Also surprisingly, she mumbled apologies repeatedly during my explosion. She was kinda ugly crying and that's all she would say is "I'm so sorry." But in the end I left the kitchen before she could compose herself enough to say anything else, told her to please leave me alone. So that happened. She lingered around the kitchen for a while before leaving again for her sister's house. The girls got home about a half hour later and knew something had happened, hard to hide it, but I wasn't ready to talk about anything and don't think they need to know about this, do they? The two youngest have been doing much better and I don't want to hinder their progress, and telling my oldest about this would just add more fuel to her fire, which I also don't want. I hate this so much, I hate it. I should have held it together, I should have just given my WW the cold shoulder and walked right past her. I don't know. Now thinking back, it feels like she was just trying to start a conversation about her affair but didn't know how, and obviously didn't get very far because I exploded. I've started to actually worry about her. I know many of you will criticize me for this, but I don't want her to come to any harm. She's been isolated and alone with her thoughts, with nearly everyone turning their back on her. You can say she deserves it and that's true, but she's still a human being and the mother of my kids. What a setback for me, really disappointed in myself. Sorry for another long rant, I called my brother and ranted to him too. Man, I'll try to start again Monday. I'm only human, it actually felt good to vent on her, but now of course the regret is hitting me. Should I text my wife or just leave it be? I'm such a mess, but thanks for listening, thanks for offering me the support I need to get through all of this, and thank you for all of the advice in the midst of the chaos. We have all started therapy, so that's something, but this is so incredibly hard, just so hard. Update 6, I know many of you have reached out to me, and I do appreciate the concern. Most of you are correct, things aren't great and I haven't had the chance to get online at all. Wanted to maybe take a break from the internet, but this week has me backpedaling horribly. It's just been awful. Wife hasn't really left me alone all week, overly nice and continually apologizing for her affair, sobbing and then smothering me. Knocking on my door at night wanting to talk. I've ignored her some, but talked when I was in the mood. I finally snapped at her Wednesday night telling her to leave me alone, then last night it happened. Just over a month since my soon-to-be ex-wife came back home after her affair blew up, and now as things have entered this uncomfortable cohabitating routine, she came into my room after the girls went to bed and asked to talk with me in private. Differently than she'd been approaching me all week. I fought it at first, but eventually we actually went to the garage and sat in my car so as not to make the mistake of confrontation in front of the kids again. This is lengthy, apologies. She told me everything according to her. We were out there for almost 3 hours. I don't know how much to share. I was up all night, listened to her sobbing again for several hours, couldn't sleep. I cried too, then I'd get super angry and have to resist going in to scream at her, then cry, then anger, and on and on. Forgive me if I take a day or so to respond to anyone, but I need to get this off my chest and then try to sleep. It hasn't helped having my WW constantly apologizing and begging me for another chance all evening tonight too. Had to leave for a few hours just to get away from her, it is just so painful to be around her. Anyway, she was introduced to her AP by her sister well before COVID, dating back about 5 years. Apparently with zero romantic intentions, but he was a higher up at a company she wanted to work for, and currently does, and he gave her an in. So her desire to change jobs was not based on her affair, but once she did change jobs obviously she had extra incentive. Once she got the job, AP began flirting with her. Started out as texting, then pictures and more texting, then became physical just before COVID hit. She confessed to her sister and wanted to come clean to me then, but decided to bury it and say nothing of course. Wife said she went NC with her AP soon after, but as lockdowns and restrictions were lifted he reached back out to her and she resumed talking to him until the physical side to the affair started up again once businesses went back to work. She claims to have ended the affair a couple of times out of guilt, but kept going back to him. So it never ended essentially. She actually included a lot of details, had a 5-page packet of handwritten notes of her affair timeline, read off the entire thing answering questions along the way. She lied about weekend trips with the girls, she lied about traveling for work, She lied about traffic jams, about issues with her parents, about shopping trips, etc. Just as I suspected, and the list was extensive. So many lies that I just trusted her every word, never questioned anything, but they were just a front to be with him. Hearing it all, it just made me feel worse. Everyone was correct about that. But her affection never really dipped while all of this was going on. She never got distant like I read so often. Intimacy did change, but not enough to where I'd see red flags. Anyway, she admits falling in love with AP and wanting a life with him. He was older, divorced/single, and promised her expensive things, vacations, and all the things he could dote on her with. She started fantasizing about escaping her responsibilities with the family and claimed the thrill of being with him as too much to resist, talked about how bored she got with the daily routines of family life. She was incredibly candid, very emotional and seemingly honest. I lost my composure and began crying midway through. It hurt to hear it all, as you'd expect. Of course, once she was finished with her confession, she told me how much she loved me and always has, and that she's willing to do everything to try and save the marriage. A lot of you predicted this would happen. But it all just seems so disingenuous to me, like it was rehearsed. I've been with this woman for well over half my life, and I can just tell when she's full of crap. Maybe I'm wrong, guess it doesn't matter. But I composed myself better than last week, still got angry and said a few not so nice things, including getting a jab in about how her AP was seeing multiple women and she was just one of many that he was willing to toss aside. That seemed to really upset her. A million things have gone through my brain when thinking about this moment when she'd finally confess. All the one-liners I might throw at her, or things I could say to hurt her back. Hundreds of responses that I couldn't think of in the emotional moment the other night, but one thing I knew I would ask, and that was if AP was still alive and she had to choose between him and me, who would she choose? She hesitated and then mumbled, "That's not fair." I pressed the issue and then she eventually said she'd of course pick me. My response was that her hesitation was the reason I was divorcing her, because she was lying again. She started sobbing and that was the last she spoke. We sat in the car a while, she just kept sobbing, but I was tired so I just told her that we're divorcing, and we owe it to the girls to get along in a civil way, to be great parents and be present in their lives. I also added that after all the pain she'd put me through, I hoped she was a good enough person to divorce fairly/amicably, that would prove she actually loved me. The last thing I said to her, I stole from somewhere else online. Please understand that I'm not a petty person, and I did not purposely want to cause her pain. It just seemed a fitting end to it all, but I did 100% mean what I said and did. I leaned over and kissed her on the forehead and told her that I would have loved her forever, then got out of the car and went to bed. That was it. Of course I didn't sleep last night and here I am unable to sleep once again tonight. Don't know what happens now. Her opportunity to contest the divorce has come and gone, so I guess that's one good thing, but I haven't talked to my lawyer yet. I find myself crying again and sinking back into those depression/anger phases. It was very hard hearing everything last night, and in reality I could have done without it all, now that I know. She could have lied and made it all up too, who knows, but it seemed to fit perfectly with everything I'd put together in the past month. So that's it for now. This is just never ending, it seems. I have a few good days, start feeling strong again, and then something else happens. It feels like it's been months and yet only days at the same time, but I'm going to try and sleep. Imagine. The love of your life, the only woman you've ever loved, ever kissed, tells you she cheated on you for over 4 years because she was bored. Didn't fall out of love, didn't grow apart, didn't have any relationship issues or dead bedroom, nothing like that. Just because she was bored. Don't know if that makes it worse or better. Thanks for reading and helping along the way. Bad couple of nights, very bad.